So, what if I told you that you could fight back against that chronic pain, that stiffness that greets you every single morning, just by changing what you eat for breakfast? It sounds almost too simple, right? Well, let's dive into this because the science behind it is pretty incredible, and it might just change your life.
Think about your morning routine for a second. Does this sound familiar? You're not waking up because you feel rested and ready to go. No, you're waking up because the pain is literally pulling you out of sleep. You just sit there on the edge of the bed, kind of mentally preparing yourself for the simple act of standing up.
I mean, this quote just hits home for so many people. It perfectly captures that feeling, right? That slow, painful shuffle to the bathroom, where every joint is just complaining. By the time you even think about coffee, you're already feeling drained, and the day has barely started. If you're nodding along right now, you really need to pay attention to what's coming next. So what's the real enemy here? It's not just about getting older. The culprit has a name, and it's chronic inflammation. The best way to think about it is like a low-grade fire just smoldering inside your body day in and day out. And that pain, that stiffness, that's the smoke signal that your body is sending up. And you know what? If this is your reality, you're so far from being alone. The Arthritis Foundation reports that over 54 million adults in the US have been diagnosed with arthritis. And that doesn't even count the millions more who are suffering without a diagnosis. This is a huge shared struggle. But the good news is, it does not have to be your story.
All right, so if we know that inflammation is the fire, then the first battle of the day happens at the breakfast table. So the big question is your breakfast the fuel that helps you heal, or is it basically just pouring gasoline on those flames? And that choice you make every single morning is absolutely critical. On one side, you've got the usual suspects, right? The white toast, the sugary cereals, the pastries, even a big glass of orange juice. All of these can actually spike inflammation. But then, on the other side, we've got our heroes. These are the foods that don't just avoid making things worse, they actively go to war against that fire.
So, let's get practical. Let's build your morning arsenal. We're going to break down 5 core food groups that, when you put them together, create an incredibly powerful pain-fighting breakfast protocol. First up in our arsenal is turmeric golden milk. Now, this is not some new age trend. This is literally ancient medicine that modern science is finally catching up with and proving how incredibly effective it is. The real magic comes from a compound inside turmeric called curcumin. That's the heavy hitter. And just how powerful are we talking? Well, one study looking at people with knee osteoarthritis found that taking curcumin for just 8 weeks led to a jaw-dropping 58% reduction in their reported pain and stiffness. Let that sink in for a second. That's almost a 60% improvement from a spice. And making it is super simple. You just gently warm up a cup of milk, any kind will do, whisk in your spices, and then add a little touch of sweetness. But here is the secret weapon, the part you absolutely cannot skip. The black pepper. It contains a compound that boosts your body's absorption of that powerful curcumin by an insane 2,000%. Seriously, don't leave it out. Okay, our second weapon is foods that are rich in omega-3s. These are, and I mean this, non-negotiable. Why? Because your body takes these omega-3s and turns them into these incredible molecules that act like your body's own personal firefighters. They don't just reduce inflammation, they actively resolve it. They tell the fire to stop. And getting them into your breakfast is easier than you think. You could have a small piece of wild-caught salmon, maybe a small tin of sardines, or if you're looking for plant-based options, just toss 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed into a smoothie, or grab a 1/4 cup of walnuts. Getting these in early sets your body up for success all day long. Moving on to item number 3 in our arsenal, berries. I'm talking blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, you name it. They're not just delicious, they are little inflammation-fighting powerhouses. And it's all thanks to these compounds called anthocyanins, which are actually what give them those beautiful, rich colors. And the science on this is just so compelling. A huge study out of Harvard found that women who ate the most berries had a 34% lower risk of having a heart attack, which, by the way, is a disease driven by chronic inflammation. Just a cup a day can make a massive difference. All right, for our 4th weapon, let's talk about your morning drink. And I'm telling you, matcha green tea blows coffee out of the water here. See, with regular green tea, you brew the leaves and then you throw them away. With matcha, you're actually consuming the entire leaf, ground into a fine powder. And that simple difference changes everything. I mean, the difference is just dramatic.
Because you're getting the whole leaf, matcha can deliver up to 10 times more anti-inflammatory compounds and antioxidants than a regular cup of green tea. You're getting a huge dose of ECGC, which is one of the most powerful inflammation fighters found anywhere in nature. It's a serious upgrade.
And our final item, number 5, is probably the easiest one to add to your morning routine: nuts. We're specifically talking about almonds, walnuts, and pistachios. These guys are just packed with vitamin E, magnesium, and fiber, and they all work as a team to protect your cells and help calm down your immune system.
And the long-term benefit is honestly profound. A massive 30-year study published in the New England Journal of Medicine found that people who ate a handful of nuts every day had a 20% lower death rate compared to people who didn't. A small habit that can have a huge, huge impact over time.
Okay, so now we have our 5-part arsenal. We know what to eat. But to make this whole thing really work, we have to follow 2 simple but absolutely critical rules of engagement. This is how we go from just knowing this stuff to actually doing it and getting results. Rule number 1 is all about timing. Here's a cool fact. Your body's inflammation levels are naturally at their highest point in the morning. It's just part of our biology. So that's why it is so important to eat this breakfast within 1 hour of waking up. You're basically intercepting that inflammatory spike right as it's happening. And rule number 2 is all about synergy. You can't just pick one of these foods and expect a miracle. The real magic happens when you combine them. The omega-3s, the berries, the nuts, and that anti-inflammatory drink, they all work together. They amplify each other's effects, making the whole meal way more powerful than any single part. So, what can you actually expect if you commit to this? Look, this isn't some 3-day miracle diet. Real healing takes a little bit of time. So let's talk about a realistic path to relief. Within the first week or 2, you're probably going to notice some subtle shifts. Maybe a little less of that morning stiffness, maybe a bit more energy. But the real noticeable transformation, that tends to happen around the 6 to 8 week mark. That's when people start reporting significant drops in their pain levels and a real improvement in their mobility. The key is you have to stick with it. You see, this isn't really just about food. This is about taking back your mornings. It's about reclaiming your mobility and ultimately reclaiming your life from chronic pain. And that whole journey, that new reality, can start with your very next breakfast. So your pain-free life is right there, waiting for you. The only question is, are you ready to begin?